stop looking at your past as your marker and look forward to the future, see that as all of this potential and room to grow, and then progress from there. So just like forget the past, it's over.
Thanks for the coming to the Hustleandfit interview series. How's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I know everything's been a little bit weird and crazy with all the stuff going on. So how have you been adjusting, and how's your business been going and so forth?
It's been really good. I've been slowly adjusting, kind of getting used to working out, living, hanging out all in the same places. Has definitely been fun. But I feel a little bit more adjusted now. Business has been good. It's been surprisingly busy, which I wasn't expecting, but I guess a lot of people now are realizing that they have time to actually do the things that they have always said they would do if they had time. So yeah, it's been fun.
So what got you into this? Like what got you through this whole journey of fitness and training and helping people?
So I went to school for exercise and sports science. I've always been into like work, sports, and nutrition field.
That's amazing, because that is a big topic of conversation where people are trying to learn that they have to kind of do this for themselves. What do you find that people typically have a challenge with? Like, what's really stopping them from really getting past the whole I need to get the six pack instead of realizing I just need to get healthy and be able to take care of my kids? And like, what do you think you find is like a mental block that people seem to face a lot with that?
I think so. It's interesting. I think that the culture is shifting a little bit now, and more people that I talk to, they are coming to me and they're like, I just want to be able to run around with my kids and not get tired, or I just want to be able to be, it's a lot of stuff around kids. People are like, I want to be able to be alive for my kids and be around. And so I think that culture is changing a little bit there, but I do think kind of the biggest block is we've been so brainwashed that the gym and eating and dieting and all that stuff, you do it to get your summer beach body, or you do it to look a certain way. And so I think people just don't even realize that, oh, if I also want to have more energy and sleep better and just be a better friend, wife, daughter, whatever it may be, that these things are all tied into it. So I think culture shifting a little bit there, to where that's becoming more of the sought after versus the lose 10 pounds or get the six pack. But I think there's just a little bit of a lack of knowledge of, oh, like these things also can help me with this.
Yeah, exactly. It's starting to become more functional rather than just looking good. And what do you think? I've started noticing things too. I feel like even some of the media is like the social media is changing what the body images look like now, or they're looking different. What is your opinion on like where we came from, like what people used to want to look like, and then now how people are looking a little bit more? They're looking more. I want to say more realistic to what life really represents. That's like the better way of saying it. I don't know if I'm saying it politically correct.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. So I think that a big part of that is honestly our, at least in America, like our pop culture. I think that people are beginning to see more models and movie actors and prominent like singers and things like that that don't look like the typical like super skinny or super like buff or like whatever it may be. They're people like, kind of like you said, it's more like the average person, and people are like, oh well, they're really cool and I kind of look like them, so maybe I can be cool too. And so yeah, I think that the media is kind of affecting some of that and is being a little more inclusive in including all types of bodies. And I also think that the fitness world too is expanding a little bit, and it's not just the typical like Thor personal trainers. Like you walk in, it's like, oh, they all look like Jennifer Aniston and Thor, and they're just standing like, hey, like you want to work out too, like. So
No.
I think that I think that there's a little bit of a shift happening there. But yeah.
That's interesting though. I'm noticing it now. It's crazy because I used to see like one look, and then now the look's changing. And I was having a conversation with another trainer, and it's just funny because it's like I feel like it had to come to the point where people were just like, you have to do it for you, because if you base it on the outside perception, you just be chasing this whatever the fad thing of the week is, you know, and then you're
Yeah.
just running around for the rest of your life. And then I noticed one area that you really touched upon, and I was really fascinated by this, which is the emotional eating aspect, because I noticed that you specialize in that. So the first question I have is, what is emotional eating?
So emotional eating, it's something that a lot of people deal with, but they might not necessarily know it's something that they deal with. So it's that feeling of when you feel lonely or sad or angry or stressed or whatever it might be, and you turn to food as kind of the comfort for that feeling. So some people, they experience those feelings, their stress reliever is going to the gym and working out, or going and like drinking, or going and talking with a friend, whatever it may be. But for a lot of people, that stress reliever is sitting on the couch, eating a bag of chips or eating a pint of ice cream, craving comfort food that maybe you don't normally want. But it's any sort of letting your emotions kind of control the food choices that you're making versus you feeling like you are consciously choosing the foods you eat, because a lot of times with emotional eating, it does feel like you can't control it. It's like, well, I just have a craving for this and I have to have it, or I just need to eat this. And you feel like you don't really have any control over what you're eating. It's just like, oh, well, there we go. Another bag of chips or another row of Oreos. Like, that's just what it is. And yeah.
Mm. And are there any telltale signs that you're like an emotional eater, like something that you typically find that people do and you're like, oh, that's something you could tell, you know, that's a person who's emotional eating? Is there anything like that?
I would say a big sign is how often are you thinking about food? If you find yourself thinking about food or even your appearance from kind of the moment you wake up to when you go to bed, and not necessarily thinking about food as in like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to eat today, or like, I don't know, like I wonder what's for lunch later, but thinking about it in more of a negative way. So, for example, someone could wake up, they go to get dressed, they hate the way all their clothes look on them. And so they're already thinking about, like, well, I'm not going to eat that much for lunch today because I'm going to wear this shirt and it's already too tight and things like that. And then kind of they go throughout the day. Maybe someone brings a cookie into their workplace, and instead of just like eating the cookie and going on about their day, it turns into like a maybe 2 or 3 hour battle of, well, I don't want to mess up my diet and eat the cookie, but should I eat the cookie? I don't know. And so it's a lot of, if you feel like food is constantly on your mind and every day you wake up and you're thinking about either how you can't eat something or how you are just thinking about food is the thing that is kind of controlling what you do, where you go to eat, who you hang out with, I would say that's a pretty big telltale sign.
Oh, wow. So, that's interesting. And the reason why I became fascinated with this because I noticed that when I was in a position in my career, I used to be a financial planner and I didn't like what I was doing, or I noticed I gained a lot of weight. So I was a stockbroker, and then I gained a lot of weight. And then when I switched into being a financial planner, I started saying, hey, I got to get better. And then I lost all this weight. And that's kind of how I got into this whole journey. But then it made me question. I was like, it's interesting to me that when I didn't enjoy my career and I was really frustrated and angry at everything, I gained a lot of weight and I didn't even notice it. I just woke up one day and I was like, whoa, who is that man in that picture? Like, where is that chin coming from? Like, like, you know, and then it just woke me up. I was like, what's going on? So, and I think I kind of, I know, I find like with women, they're better at acknowledging their feelings and being able to really catch on to an emotional distress. Whereas I find with, well, I'm talking maybe for just for myself, I'm not good at really recognizing my own feelings. I'm literally one of those people, like a robot has to sit down for hours and realize, oh, I was angry then. That's what happened. Like, so, so it takes me a long time to even understand my own feelings you know, so that's why I was very fascinated about what you're doing in terms of emotional eating and stuff like that. What would be some strategies or tips or ways that one can battle emotional eating and kind of give themselves a leg up on this kind of issue?
Yeah. So good tips that I always tell people are, one, kind of like what you just referenced, making sure that you just hit pause. So a lot of times emotional eating can lead to those times where literally what you just described, where you're in a stressful job transition or you are in a bad relationship or whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden you just have that moment where you're like, oh gosh, like when did this happen? And it's because kind of you don't even really realize that you're turning to food to comfort you. And so I like to tell people just hit pause if you are like about to eat something or going out to eat or whatever it may be. Just hit pause, think about, why am I about to order or make or go get the food that I am about to? And really think about, like, is it because like my body is like, no, I just really want a burger right now? Or is it, I'm kind of feeling a little bit like sad, and I think that this burger would make me feel a little bit happier, instead of, because a lot of times people will turn to food instead of focusing inward and diving into those emotions, because the food feels better than going to that hard place of sitting down with your thoughts and feelings. And I'm terrible at it too, and it's been a journey getting better at that. But a couple questions that I tell people when they're pausing to ask, or if you just ate something and you're like, oh, I think I ate that because I was angry, and but now it's already eaten. So ask, what's happening around you during the few hours kind of beforehand, before you ate something or before you're about to eat something. What were you doing? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? And then immediately before you ate whatever it is that you ate, or immediately before you order, what were you doing? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? And then what made this unwanted choice easier for you? So a lot of people will beat themselves up because they're like, oh man, like I ate the whole pint of ice cream and I didn't even realize it. And it's like, okay, well, what made that easier? Was it because you were zoned out watching Netflix because you didn't want to focus on what was happening internally? Or were you at a restaurant with your friends and you were drinking, and whatever it may be? There's always something that makes that unwanted choice easier. And whether it's like a whole week of eating McDonald's every day and you're like, okay, well, like, what made this choice easier for me? That's usually what I have people focus on, because usually the food is just a coping mechanism to not actually address the internal, which is a lot harder than just going to McDonald's and getting the Happy Meal or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you ever have situations where, if you know, like, let's say a person's working through their emotional eating, is there a certain types of foods where you say, listen, I know you want to go pick up that McDonald's burger, but instead go grab a celery stick and just start chomping on that? Do you ever do stuff like that? Or does that not work that well? I'm just kidding.
So it honestly kind of depends on the person. Some people don't really do well with the whole like eat the healthier version of, like, if they're like, if I want pizza, I just want to eat pizza. I don't want this
Yeah.
cauliflower junk over here. And then other people, that does work well for them, and they're like, oh, I can still have the feeling of pizza, but at least I'm not eating like, or at least it's not as terrible as going and getting a whole like Domino's pizza. So it kind of depends on the person, and that's a thing that I kind of work with people on, figuring out like what works best for them. So yeah, some people it's like, eat a celery every time you want a cookie, and they're like, okay, fine. And then other people are like, absolutely not. Like, so
It makes no sense.
yeah.
100%. Oh, that makes sense. So it sounds like that even your diet programs are very customized to the person and so forth, and stuff like that. And do you incorporate a lot of strength training into your workout routines, and then, or is it more cardio based, or are you just depending on the person and you figure it out from there?
Yeah, so everything that I do is pretty custom, just because I found that works best to helping people get to where they want to go. And I do focus primarily on strength training. Cardio is just kind of like sprinkled in to help with like, because cardio is important too. But a lot of people that come to me, they either have never done strength training, or they've done it before. Maybe they tried it on their own, they got injured, and so they never went back to it. And then a couple people have been doing it consistently, but it's a lot of beginners that I work with there. And so usually for the first time they start doing it and they're like, oh wow, like I actually feel strong, and like I can lift the 15 pounds now instead of like the 10s, and this is really cool. And so that also kind of helps boost the different emotions that people are feeling. And so I've seen through strength training, whenever someone like gets their first pull up, they're like, oh, I just did a pull up. Like,
That's
okay,
crazy.
cool. I'm going to like get myself out of this abusive relationship. Or like, oh, I just did a push up. Like, this is cool. I'm going to quit my job because like I know that I'm capable. Like, and so
It's true.
especially for women, I think it is very empowering to see yourself do these things that you've always just kind of been told, like, oh, that's just for the guys to do. And even for guys too, like I've worked with a lot of people who like they've just always felt like weak and like not as strong and not the classic like Captain America like man. And so when they start seeing that, oh, I am strong, like it just boosts a lot of things. And then you end up kind of realizing, oh, well, like I feel better. I'm not reaching for the food as often. Like I feel happier. And so it's all kind of connected.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I had that exact same experience. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, one of my favorite questions. Well, actually, before we get to that, I'll ask you this. So, where can people find you, and then what are you working on right now?
So I am most active on Instagram. That's where you can find me. I think maybe my Instagram name will be somewhere with
Yeah, I'll
this.
pop it up. You can say it too if you
Okay, cool. Okay,
want.
yeah, it's just my name, like at Ashley underscore Bowers underscore. So that's me. If just shoot me a DM on there if you want to chat or have any questions. What I'm working on right now, I have a group nutrition program that focuses on kind of debunking emotional eating and helping people get to a place of food freedom. So I'm finishing up around with that, and we're starting again in August, at the beginning of August. So that's kind of my big focus now. Got some fun, exciting stuff happening in this next go round that I'm adding in. So I'm really excited for that.
Awesome. Well, okay, so I'd like to wrap up this question. This is my, enjoy this. I always ask someone, if you had to leave, I'm still wording it properly. If you had to leave the planet tomorrow, so we're going to take you off and you're going to go traveling, and you could leave the world with one thing, like one piece of information, health related, what would that one piece of information be?
Oh, I like that. I think that I would say don't base your current progress off of your past. So a lot of people, they look at their past and they're like, I suck. Like, why can't I get back to this how I was in high school, or why can't I do this? And so I would say stop looking at your past as your marker and look forward to the future. See that as all of this potential and room to grow, and then progress from there. So just like forget the past, it's over, focus on the future, use that as your potential, and see this is where I'm at now. Look at all this room I have to grow versus this is where I'm at now compared to where I was before, and I'm terrible now. So I think that, yeah, I think that's what I would leave. Maybe
Awesome.
worded a little bit better, but
No, no, it's fine. It's off the cuff, so it actually comes
yeah.
off way better. But you know what, Ashley, you provided some awesome information. I hope the Hustle and Fit family, I hope you guys have gotten so much information out of this. Take what Ashley is saying, go out, follow her on Instagram, watch what she's doing, DM her, and really get a part of her world, because I think what she's talking about and what she stands for is something that's really important. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of that. And Ashley, thank you so much for being with us today.